Hi everyone. Welcome to our stream. Can everybody hear us, see us? I think we're just on the main screen so far, but hello. Hi. Oh, perfect. Yep, that's me. Hey. So testing. Seems like you can hear me. I don't think you could see us. Can you? I think we're disembodied heads right now. Still, but that'll be changing very soon. So awesome. I'm so glad you're all here today, all 56 of you. I appreciate you so much. We all do. And so glad to spend this lovely Sunday with you. We've got a very cool presentation, interview, casual talk type of thing, all prepared for you. So why don't we dive right in? Someone had a Skype message. So hi. Again, thank you all so much for joining our stream today. This event is hosted by our group, Japanese Translators of NYC. It's a group where new and experienced translators basically come together and do hands-on translation activities. And sometimes we have guest speakers like we do today. So I'm Kristi Fernandez, one of the founders of this group. And this is Kenisha Thomas. She's the vice president here at JTNYC. And today we're going to be interviewing our guests today and helping answer your questions that you write in the chat. So feel free to write them anytime, and we'll get to them, throughout the interview as soon as we can. Sounds good. Okay, so normally we have monthly meetings in person, our group, but because of, everything going on in the world, we figured a digital panel would be the perfect place for, all of us to get together again, relax, learn about manga translation and more about our guest and their thought processes when it comes to manga. And honestly, to just set aside any outside stress, from the real world and just have fun diving into some manga. So that said, why don't we get right into it? Okay, so today our guest is David Evelyn. He is a Jersey-born Japanese English translator specializing in all forms of Japanese English media. Some works to his credit include the manga Undead, Unluck and Kaiju number 8, which are currently running in the digital Shonen Jump publication. He also does several projects for J Novel Club, most recent series being The White Cat's Revenge as plotted on the Dragon King's lap, as well as he's also done visual novels under Sekai Project, including titles such as the Nekopara and 99 series. Okay, so with that said, David, would you like to grace us? Are we frozen? Hold on, let me see the switch. Oh, I think we're good. So, okay.
All right. How you guys doing? Can you guys hear me? Are we over there? Double voice? What does that mean? Okay, anyway. Chat aside, thank you guys for having me. It's fine. It's a fine Saturday, Sunday. What the hell day is it? Sunday. I'm drunk. Very very nice to be here. Appreciate you guys bringing me out in my own house, and it's great.
Yeah, of course. So, how are you doing? How's everything going?
As far as, being cooped up in my house for 10 months, it's been pretty good. I got a haircut. I no longer look like a wolf man. It's great. I got this, neck beard thing going on here, but, you can only have so much.
No, I get you. Okay, so, well, from what I'm seeing is that I don't see three of us on the screen so far. Are we supposed to be here? Here we are. There we are. Okay, so hello everybody. So now that we got that, yay! Oh, great. Now that we got that out of the way, cool, David. So you're here with us today. Thank you so much for joining, and
Thank you.
all these lovely people for. People are saying I've got echo.
There's an echo.
What do we do? They see all three of us, but echoes from me.
Echoes from you.
What about from me? Can you hear me?
Can you guys hear me or hear everyone?
Can you hear me?
Kenisha is echoey, but not David. We tried this on Discord, but That was really echoey. Oh, David, I don't think we could hear you right now.
You can't hear me?
Oh, now I can.
Oh.
Oh, boy.
David's clear. Try headphones. You know, we tried that.
I know, we tried before.
Try
Can you hear
headphones.
me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're not echoing. You're not echoing on my end, which is funny.
Huh.
Is it, yeah?
Might be echoing on my end.
Yeah.
Let's see if I have anything. David's okay. The rest is echoey.
Echoiest.
Okay, so the headphones don't matter. Okay.
If I wear headphones, it might do it. Sure, I'll try it. I'll try anything once. I trust Jackson.
Right.
He's a trusted person.
It's weird because I heard you echoing just now.
Who, David or me?
David.
How about that?
2 seconds. Should we all do the
Chat room, can you hear me? Breaker. Delta. Yeah, but still echoey? Yeah, that's what I figured. Jackson was wrong. Thanks a lot, Jackson. This is my presentation, Jesus.
I'm gonna grab your phones or whatever just in case, so I don't sound like I'm screaming into a karaoke mic. Hold on for a sec.
Okay.
All right.
Kristi is fine now?
Kristi's fine now? What about?
Huh. Okay. That's so weird.
Whoops. Hey, everything's going just fine, guys.
Oh, good. Wait, and it says we're all better. Magic. I don't know what magic did it, but.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Well, thanks to everybody in the chat. You saved us.
Yeah, you saved us, and I appreciate that. I still feel like I'm about to land an airplane with these headphones on, but it's fine.
But it's all good. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, and chat, please tell us if anything's funky again. Okay. But besides that, David, let's get right into it. So, can you go into sort of like your beginning, the very, your anime backstory of how you even started learning Japanese, like before we got to Translator, even aspirations or anything. Where did that really start?
My humble beginnings, I am part Japanese, Jersey-born guy, and I kind of self-taught myself Japanese because I was interested in my roots because my dad did not speak any Japanese despite being part Japanese himself. So I, from like around 10, 11, 12, I can't remember now because my memory is totally awful. I just kept studying and interacting with people and using every resource that Net 1.0 with like those creepy pervert chat rooms could provide me. So that's pretty much how I started my journey, I guess, learning Japanese and, learning a bunch, just absorbing from everything I could find and get my grubby hands on, just absorbing it and keeping it in the old memory banks for later on. And I guess it worked out in the end because now I'm, professional and I use a lot of what I've accrued over the years.
So really, what was the inspiration for you to start learning Japanese in the first place? Was it more because of, you have Japanese blood and you were just really interested in learning more about your culture? Like what was, what really got you into, studying, because I think you said the other day that you started studying at like 11 or 12.
Yeah, it was around like I got an interest when because my dad was adopted, so I didn't really know that he was Japanese until around then. Mm-hmm. I just knew that like there was like Japanese stuff that I would always get like from like my grandfather and stuff like that, and I just be like, oh, cool, and then like my aunt would mention it sometimes, but I didn't know until I was actually like that old. So, I think I took like a liking to it because that was around the time like Pokemon and like everything from Japan was becoming popular, and not for like sweat lords in their basement, hoping to God that no one catches their pervert VHS tapes and shit like that. So it was a little more accessible to people back then because of like stuff coming out from Japan in a more accessible manner, like on TV. Like there was stuff on TV that you could tell was from Japan, right? Like before that, like I would like watch stuff on TV. I had no idea it was anime. Like there used to be a cartoon called Noozles, and it used to be about koalas, right? But that cartoon was actually an anime called Shigi no Kora, I think Frankie or Blanky or something like that. And like I used to watch that. I'm like, oh, cool cartoon, I guess. But yeah, like I just felt like it was necessary to, well, not necessary, but I just had an interest in it, and I was like, okay, it'd be cool if I could understand what they're saying, or what the people are saying in like these videotapes I used to have, like you know, old movies, tokusatsu movies, and Godzilla and stuff like that that my grandfather would give me. So
basically, it was part of your family and you, obviously, but not only that, but you also liked the media and everything that came out from Japan at the time. So when did that interest in learning Japanese and more about it and things like that, when did that become an interest in translating?
I think around the time when I was pretty much getting out into high school, like around when like I was really big in the Yu-Gi-Oh fandom, and then like that's kind of like the jumping off point for like me becoming like interested in translating stuff, because the information in that fandom for like stuff that comes directly from Japan is extremely scarce. Like it's very scarce. There's no flow of information coming in or out by people that are competent enough to translate stuff. So when I went to these forums, these old B bulletin forums, maybe 300 people on them at a time, or these websites that were like run by Thai people who could barely speak English, and like they're stringing together like all these weirdo sentences together. I felt like, oh, maybe I can step in there and like give people something a little bit more competent, because I'm good at English, maybe, I don't know. And then that's how it kind of started. It was just my innate desire to help out people that didn't have the same kind of language abilities that I did.
So we just got a question in the chat saying, can I ask how you studied when you were small? I have an 8-year-old and I'm teaching her Japanese, so I'm looking for tips.
You probably don't want to use my technique, because it was completely half-assed and awful. Like, I'm talking, like I said, when I said Net 1.0, I'm talking like dial-up internet, downloading like files that have like not even scanned, they're like pictures of like books, and like there's like online resources. I think the best online resource I found at the time later on was Tai Kim's Guide for Japanese, and I like read that religiously, along with a lot of other sites that were in English. And I would go to like Walden Books, and I would like buy stuff that I could find, like anything, like textbooks and guidebooks and stuff like that. And really, it was just like, back then, it was just kind of like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll just learn it this way. But I was so young that I guess everything kind of went into my brain better, and I had like exposure to it beforehand too, that I just kind of, it just was the perfect storm, So I would just suggest using whatever's on the internet now. Everything on the internet now is way better than it was back then. So, I mean, like, you're in better shape nowadays, to tell you the truth.
Well, with that, with what access you have to certain materials now, rather than, just the very few textbooks that I had in school.
And the quality of information that they give you is better nowadays. Like the information that you can get off of the internet, or like just stuff in general, is way better than it was 10, maybe even 20 years ago. So like you can just you can buy like a book, like a textbook, and it'll like me like I don't know $70 or maybe like even 100. But the information you get from that book is going to be way more valuable than whatever dumb shit I was using in like 1998. I can tell you that much.
Okay, I hope that answered your question. Also, so on the topic of you studying Japanese because you were, interested in it, and then you said kind of the thing that got you interested in translating was like the fan subgroups that you thought maybe you could improve. I guess that was Yu-Gi-Oh! And stuff like that. So did you join fan subgroups? Did you, what did you do exactly to hone your translation skills at the time before you, went professional?
So I would post on forums, and I would provide like there would be like the shows that we were watching were airing weekly. So it was the Wild West back then, and everyone and their grandmother was uploading shit to wherever. So every week I would like do like maybe like a summary, and then I would do like a like whatever, like because Yu-Gi-Oh has cards, right? So I would like translate what cards were on there as well, and I would just like put them on the forums, and that's what I did for like the latter part of like maybe 3 years. And then like when I was like, I don't know, coming out of college or like going into college, maybe I can't remember at this point. It's been like too long. I think 2009 or something like that. That's when I was like getting into like more fan translation straight up, because I got like inspired by like professionals, like the way that fan translators were becoming professionals, like Stephen J. Simmons, who was the Dragon Ball translator for Funimation, and is still a translator for Funimation, I think. And Clyde Mandolin, like he was big mother person, Earthbound, so he did the fan translation for the GBA game, and those fans, they were fans of the series. They were becoming professionals in their field. So I took inspiration from them in order to my own work, or like, my own work at the time, doing Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. And then that was how people were, like, they found out that Steve still works at Funimation. All right, cool. Glad to hear that, actually. But I think that because I was taking inspiration from pros, it shined in the work that I was giving, because I was giving people like better quality work than most professionals at the time sometimes. And not to toot my own horn or anything like that. What I was doing was like fucking totally illegal, and no one should do it nowadays. But like, it helped a lot, because I would get a lot of feedback from like forum goers and like people that were like, "Hey, this is pretty good." Like, "Oh yeah, man, you're doing it, blah blah blah." Just everyone's sucking my dick and shit. Like, I'm just like, "Oh yeah, that's great." But like, I mean, it's whatever. Like, that's cool that people wanted to like cradle my balls a little bit. But I'm like, I'm not really getting any money from it. So it's just like, I was just doing it out of the passion. Like, I loved Yu-Gi-Oh! And I loved like translating stuff for Yu-Gi-Oh! Because people were like so starved for it. I would do guidebooks, and that's how I have such a wealth of stuff that I've done. Like, I can do, right? I can do anime, manga, games. I can do novels. I can do like guidebooks. Like, all that stuff I've done in my career so far. Like, that's all stuff that I've done, like, as professional, like a professional worker. And the fact that the employers that employ me are so surprised that I'm able to do, like, the work that I am, it's just like, well, it's a testament to like how much I did in the past.
Awesome.
Oh, I'm sorry. We were going to say something, Kenisha.
Oh no, go ahead.
Okay. So, so what was I going to say? It was about you honing your translation skills. So that's basically how you did that, was through not only fan subgroups, but it sounds like, you just practiced a lot on your own as well. But on that, so what kind of projects did you do at the time besides the Digimon? Sorry, not Digimon.
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, the Digimon stuff, yeah. I mean, I'm a big name in the Digimon community. They love me.
Absolutely. What were the challenges with those projects that you had in like the very early days? And was like criticism or feedback hard to take or anything?
I mean, like, it was, the internet, so anybody with a keyboard could fucking say anything. I mean, even to this day, people give criticism. So, like, even like, for whatever I do, like whatever work I'm on, there's gonna be a guy who's just like, this is like Google Translate. What is this? Like, you're gonna get criticism no matter what. But I do think that getting the feedback that I did back in the day, back when like the Wild West days, like I think that kind of helped me to be better about my own work, like being more tight with like how my workflow. Like I really stringently like to keep my work tight and edited. Like I try to like edit everything before I send it out. Because back in the day I was just making like typos all over the fucking place. But it got me really suited, and it got me really very in tune with weekly workflow kind of things. Because with weekly stuff like that, you just like you're flying by the seat of your pants, and you have nothing you can do about it. But like back then, it was just sort of like you did stuff, and that was it. But that's in the past, and all that is like just garbage now. Just like throw that in the trash, like because everything it's different now. The landscape is different, and there's no need for that kind of shit now. So
How was it different?
well, because we have so many more options available to us. Like we have so many more streaming services, so many more platforms. I mean, like Shonen Jump being available the day of in Japan is like huge. That's huge, dude. Like I would never think that would happen ever. And it's like $2 in America. Like that's crazy. That's like that's everything I wanted. Everything I wanted and more. So it would be absolutely insane for like me from 10 years ago thinking that kind of shit. I'd just be like, what? What is that? That's like crazy talk. But
yeah. So okay, so it is really incredible, like the wealth of options we have as compared to just 20 years ago or even 10. Like it's wild. So
it is.
How
Yeah.
how exactly did you go from? Oh wait, didn't you also do at the start of your, I guess, professional career? What kind of jobs did you do then?
Oh.
And how did you sort of break into the industry?
So like I would do like a bunch of like really crappy jobs on like freelancer.com and like all those like the stuff that you get like an email at like 2 a.m. It's just like, hello, we are a translation company. We would like you to translate stuff. And then like they don't tell you what the stuff is, and it has like a deadline of like five minutes from like the time they sent the email, and you're just like, all right. So I took a lot of those like really crappy jobs, and I took a few good ones too. Like I got with a manufacturing company, and I did like a technical translation for a manual or two, and travel guides, travel brochures for stuff like that. Like it was really like boring technical stuff that I feel like anyone who knows Japanese could have done. But I did a lot of work that way, and it was kind of a good way to get my feet wet because I didn't have a job at the time. So yeah, I just kind of I just did that for a long time, and that's kind of how I went into what you were going to ask was like how I get into the industry, like the
Right.
industry, my sector of the industry at the time, which was visual novels, and I just a friend of mine and friend of yours as well, Brandon Bovia. He posted on his Twitter a long ass time ago, and he still doesn't remember this at the time. At the time I'm saying this, but he posted like, "Hey guys, I had a lettering project because he's a manga letterer. He works with me on Kaiju #8. He's like, I got a manga project that's Sekai Project, woo, or something like that." And I was like, "What Sekai Project? Better look that up." And then I sent them an email, and they told me at the time the project manager was just like, "I will keep you in the books." And I was just like, "Well, that just means." Go suck dick, kid. And like I said, I was going to like I was like, damn, I'm really hard up. But the project manager at the time actually did save my information, and he called me back like maybe 3 months afterwards, and I was on my first couple of projects. One was a game that didn't come out, and the other one was a game that did come out that took me like 2 years in production to actually finish. It was called 2236 AD, made by a man named Mokine. It was a Dojin game. Like it's they're pretty much all Dojin like self-made games, but he's a mathematician, so that was a very hard game to translate because I'm terrible at math. And he used a lot of pseudoscience combined with real science, and it was like, man, you got like the two worst things for me to actually try and translate right now, but I'll try. And I talked with him.
Really difficult.
It was pretty difficult, especially when he's like making up like terms that don't exist. So, but it was still cool, and I still talk to him now. We went to when I went to Japan, I had lunch with him and we hung out and stuff. So. But that's how I kind of broke in. I broke in through visual novels, through Sekai Project, because the president I ended up knowing actually from a mutual friend of mine who used to go to college with me. So now, like, we're kind of friends, by proxy. And before that, actually, before I actually got into the industry proper, I was going to be a Viz Media translator, maybe, or like get involved in a project, because my friend Evan Galloway, he's a very good friend of mine. I've known him since the before times. He's hella cool, and he's currently, I think, the marketing and licensing manager for Viz Media. But at the time, he was like a rookie. He just got out of college. He went to Tokyo for college, got out of college, and he wanted to be in the game sector so bad, and I wanted to be in the manga sector so bad, and we ended up flipping because now he's in manga, and then I was in visual novels by proxy games. So it was like, okay, cool. But he was going to get me involved in the project. He called me up, or he messaged me. He's like, hey, guy, I got something for you. This is going to be cool. I'm going to try and get you on it. Hang tight. I'm going to try and see if I can get you on it. 4 months pass. I hear Bupkis, so I'm just like, I guess I didn't get on the project. So I was like, all right, whatever. And then I found out later that was JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So he wanted me to... He wanted me on that because he knew I was such a big JoJo's fan. Like, I was like a hella big JoJo's fan. But he ended up translating all 3 parts by himself.
Oh my goodness.
So that's like at least 30 volumes worth of manga right there. And he did that by like his trial by fire. But if it weren't for him, we wouldn't have the JoJo upbringing that we had in the States right now.
That's so wild.
For free? No, he was paid. He was an employee, Gad. He didn't do it for free. I mean, it was pretty much for free. I mean, if you're an employee, but like, yeah. But he's the reason why we have JoJo in the States. You should all thank him for that shit. Yeah, exactly. Praise be. But if that had gone through, he didn't have enough clout at the time. I didn't have enough name at the time. But he ended up getting me my job at Viz because, working for Viz, because at the time he had asked me, he was like, yeah, now do you want a project? And I'm just like, hell yeah, I want a project. And then that's how I ended up on Tokyo Ghoul Illustrations Zaki, or however they made that title. It's all flipped around. And that was my first project with Viz, working with Joel Enos, who's a really good guy too.
Wow, dang. So that really worked out for you. I was just curious. So how did you know what to charge when you first broke into the industry? Like, how did you get that know-how?
No, I had no idea. I was just I was flying by the seat of my pants, basically. I was like, okay, cool. Money's cool. I like it. Give me money. And then I just took whatever they gave me.
Right.
Like now, like back in the day, like when I was actually going to start on another project, I always got like edged. I was like, they would always give me like these like prospects, and they would just like snatch them away from me, and I'd just be like, damn it, because they were going to like bring over an anime, and they like got like 2 or 3 of us, and they were going like, okay, we're going to get started on this soon. We'll call you back later, and then it never did. And then when I found out, like, it just totally fell through. But I started like emailing people. Like I emailed like translators that were already in the industry doing anime. I emailed Clyde Mandolin like from like 10 years ago. This is like almost 10 years ago. And I asked him like, hey, what are the best rates and blah, 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 this, that, and the third. And, you know, he was probably like, who's this fucking kid? Nice try or something. I don't know what he said, but he was really helpful and he gave me like information about rates and how you know, how business should be, you know, conducted in the anime subtitling, you know, business. But yeah, I really appreciated that kind of stuff because I didn't know. But with visual novels, I had no idea. I was just like, yeah, that's more money than I was making, so I'll take it. But now that I've grown and I know more people, and you know, it's pretty much an open. It's not even like a secret anymore. Like how much, you know, people make if you ask the right people. It's you know, it's not that bad. Like because now I know when I'm like someone's trying to fuck me over, right? If someone's trying to like bend me over backwards and stuff something up my butt, I'm gonna be like, hey, sir, mayonnaise first, okay?
Sorry. I will not accept that.
Yeah.
That rate.
Right.
Oh, okay. Well, that's really cool that you know, even thought to at the time reach out to the professional translators like, you know, Clyde Mandolin. Like, so didn't you say you found his email like through his live blog?
Yeah, that was back in the day. He had a live journal and he had an email address. That was it. Like there was no other way to contact Clyde other than that. And this is back in the days I had a live journal too. I was like using that for like, you know, whatever translate. I was like a translation blog basically. I was translating like song lyrics and shit like that, and like guidebook stuff and stuff like that. But like I found him through LiveJournal, and you know I knew about him because of you know Mother and Dragon Ball. So I was like, I'll ask him. So and I think at the time he was like translating One Piece. I think One Piece was just getting its redub. It's like you know Funimation had just bought it like back from 4Kids, so it was like doing like the Renaissance. So I was asking him about it. I was asking him about stuff, and that's pretty much how it went to be.
Very cool. So, Kenisha.
No, go ahead. No, I was just responding to him. But I guess do we want to transition into talking about Simulpubs now, or?
Oh yeah.
Actually, I see that. I think that is Michelle Harmon. I think that she says I really want to translate manga and light novels and blah blah blah. Any tips for finding more international projects like that? I mean, like honestly, just you know, you just gotta talk to the right people. I mean, it's all about who you know. At this point, you just ask anybody who's in the light novel industry, like you know, or like talking. I mean, like hell, Kristi is right now. She's the managing translator for J Novel Club. So I mean, if you want to break into light novels, or you know, because manga and light novels are kind of a different thing, but they kind of like intersect sometimes. So find out what you really want to do first, and then ask the people that you want to do business with. And that's my best advice.
And there's a lot of people on Twitter and you know all that stuff. I mean, I know that website could be pretty hellish sometimes, but you know, it's a place where I definitely connected with a lot of, you know, translator colleagues who became friends and, you know, who ended up starting this group with me and being just really great. So I think maybe deciding which direction you want to go in exactly first, or what type of company you want to work with, and then, you know, applying to them. And I think that'll be good.
And that's like the best way of doing it, I think. So, let me, before we get into that, I think if we can... Oh, okay, I see. You guys have that screen up. So let me go there. Can you guys see the PowerPoint now? On your side?
Not yet.
That one. Can you see that?
I do not see that.
I don't.
No? Okay, hold on one second. Oh, no, not you guys. I'm talking about them.
Well, I'm looking on the Twitch screen.
Oh, you're looking on the
Yeah.
Twitch screen. Okay, cool. Don't worry about it then.
I'm looking on both, but I don't see it on either.
Okay, yeah. Okay, gotcha. No problem.
Sorry,
guys.
just kidding, everybody.
Yeah, sorry guys. I'm a one-man show over here. It's sort of like you go at like Showtime at the Apollo and you really suck, but then they get Sandman Crothers out and he gets the shepherd's hook at you and you just have to pull him out. It's terrible. Oh yeah. Before we go into that, I just want to like I guess give
Make
a little.
sure to see this, right?
Yeah.
I can see this screen, but it's not on the Twitch screen.
Can you see it now?
I can see it on the Skype screen. Yeah.
No.
You can see it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to like go over some of the works that I've done so far. I know you've gone over a few of them, but I have done Undead Unluck, Kaiju number 8, Tokyo Ghoul. That was the first project I ever worked with Viz on, and I'm doing the Ruby manga anthology, Juniper edition, which should be out sometime this year, I think. I'm not too sure. And Undead Unluck is getting volume 1 and 2 out later this year as well. And yeah, I did do the Fox Await Me. I'm glad that there's someone in here who actually played that. Yeah, and my other works include Nekopara Volume 4. I've done the OVA, and Extra, I think it was called, and the OVA for that. The White Cat's Revenge, as Kristi has already mentioned, and that's ongoing. That should be starting up soon. It was on hiatus. And the Fox Await Me, which was my first solo game project that I did after their previous game, My Girlfriend is a Mermaid, that I did through Sekai Project, but I did this through the company directly, and I talked with the CEO, and we were like on Twitter. He'd like hit me up like, yeah, like, and what's that?
No, it's just like
Yeah. It was very odd, but it was good. Oh wow, you bought the special edition? Damn, that's great. I'm glad that you liked that game because I like translating it. It was Korean to Japanese, and it was translated into Japanese by Hironobu Kageyama's daughter Risa Kageyama, who's fluent in Korean. So it was very interesting. Like the whole game is very interesting, and she also voices a character in it. It was a very interesting project to work on. But yeah, I just wanted to go over that before we got into Simulpub stuff.
That sounds good. So yeah, this is all of the stuff that you basically did before you were doing Simulpub translating.
I think, well, Nekopara 4 I just did, and White Cat, of course, I've done. And these two, Zaki I did as my first project, and Juniper I'm currently finishing up because that's like a joint project between Rooster Teeth and Viz Media, so like we're just getting information, we're getting like new stuff. I just got like a new thing to do like just this week. So like it's just constantly coming in and I have to translate stuff as it comes in, so it's an interesting process for that.
Cool.
Thanks. So yeah, so now I believe that Undead Unluck and Kaiju number 8 are both of the Simulpub series you're translating right now out of all those.
Yep, those are the two that I'm working on right now.
So what exactly is Simulpub translating? And how is that just different from regular translating? So
Simulpub translating is getting the materials straight from Japan, and we get like one chapter at a time, or whatever, one chapter at a time from Shueisha, from the main company that deals with Viz Media, and we translate it as it's coming out. So like we translate the chapter and put it online, and that's why every Sunday, just today, a new Shonen Jump came out with Undead Unluck 43, I think. Yeah, that's basically what we do, and it's like a weekly process, and I actually have a little thing to show everyone.
Everyone can see this, right? This new slide.
Everyone can see this right now? All right, cool.
Awesome.
So this is basically the rundown of what happens with Undead Unluck. This is my first Simulpub. I got it after I guess I did such a bang up job with Tokyo Ghoul, or like, Evan was just like, hey man, this guy's really good. And then like they put my name in for the Shonen Jump lineup or something like that. And my editor Carla was like, yeah, would you like to work on it? And I was like, yeah, sure, we'll do it. So this is basically what happens. Undead Unluck releases Sunday, Monday morning, JST. It's part of the main weekly Shonen Jump lineup. Chapters usually come in before the weekend and are due at the end of it, with a run ahead of 1 week per chapter. That means that I'm always a week ahead of everyone else. So that means that I have like a little foresight into what's going to happen, and I just have to keep my big mouth shut. Otherwise, I'm going to get canned. But once completed and checked, the chapters are put on the Shonen Jump website and Manga Plus websites, respectively, on the same day as they are in Japan. So, what happens is the mangaka draws the chapter. That's my little crude interpretation of Tezuka Sensei up there. And then, once he's done with it, once his manuscript is done, it goes down to Shueisha, who handles everything with the processing of it and, packaging it up for foreign distribution and stuff like that. And then it gets sent off to Viz Media, who puts it through their editorial, the SJ editorial. That's also my crude interpretation of Carla Clark, my editor, for both series. And she's a wonderful individual and a lovely human being. And then it goes down to my cruddy ass, the freelance translator. And this happens about like the start of the weekend, basically. So basically, like, it could be anywhere from Thursday to Friday. And then we get the chapters in, and I basically translate that one chapter, and I give it back to my editor. I give it back to Carla. She does her editing, and then she sends it off to the letterer, Michelle Pang, who I've never met before, so I don't know what she looks like. But I'm assuming that she is a dark shadow lady with a question mark on her belly. She does her magic. She does a wonderful job. I don't know if she's done anything else, but I think she's done just this series and nothing else. This might be her first series ever, but she does a wonderful job. And then she sends that back to Carla for, Carl editorial, basically, and then editorial looks over it again. Because there's at least 3 or 4 different people looking at this at the same time. And like, Carla's a little bilingual. I'm not too sure what her like exact level of Japanese is, but the people that look at it afterwards are completely bilingual, and there's at least 2 or 3 people in that. I don't really know all of them too well, but I do know they exist. So because they check a lot for misattribution and like mistranslation and stuff like that. And then once that's all finished and it's all finalized, it goes on the Shonen Jump website and the Manga Plus website, because the Manga Plus website is actually run by Shueisha themselves instead of the Viz website, which is the Shonen Jump website, which is run by Viz.
So we have a question that's asking, so it's quality checked by the editor, question mark. So, but basically when the way I'm looking at this is it's pretty much quality checked 3 times, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it's quality checked. The quality check for each individual chapter happens by at least 2 more people after my editor gets done with it. So it's quality checked quite a few times, from my understanding.
Are bilingual, right? Other bilingual people.
Right. Other bilingual people are checking it afterwards for any mistranslations or misattributions. Is there only one editor? There's one editor that I'm assigned to, and she does the initial editing. Basically, just she does like any kind of rewrites or like changes awkward sound. I'm gonna get into that a little later on, but basically I have one main editor, and then there's a bunch of people on top, like people in her department that handle the checks afterwards, from my understanding. So that's what happens with Undead Unluck, but with Kaiju number 8, it's a little different. Because Kaiju number 8 is not part of the main. It's a Shonen Jump property, but it's in Jump Plus, which is Japanese web only website that puts out its own titles. So for this, the mangaka releases. Well, the manga releases on Thursday, which is Friday morning JST instead of on the beginning of the week. And the chapters come in as the author submits them. So this mangaka, Matsumoto Sensei, will do like 2 or 3 chapters at a time and just like send them in, and then we'll just get a chunk of chapters. And I don't know how he does it. I'm assuming it's because he's crazy or something. He sends in at least two chapters or 3 chapters at a time, and every 3rd chapter he has a break. So that's when he has those kaiju showcases, stuff like that. And then once those are completed, the same kind of process goes into that. Only with this one, for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe some more astute viewers will know, but Shueisha actually gives, you can see the divergence there. They give the manga to Manga Plus, like give them to a separate freelancer team, which I don't know why they did that, but like it's whatever, because we still put out the same quality version of our manga on the Shonen Jump website. And the other difference here is that I actually work kind of more closely with the letterer, because as I mentioned before, Brandon Bovia, the letterer that said he worked for Sekai, he did some work for Sekai Project. He doesn't remember nowadays. I do work with him nowadays because I was given the opportunity to put him on the team, and I wanted him on the team very badly because we're friends. So I wanted him on the team, and he does amazing work, absolutely phenomenal work.
That's that really good. So here it looks you have more of a, you get to talk to both the letterer and editorial, and if anything goes wrong in either way, it looks like there's a lot of room for back and forth. But just curious for Undead Unluck, how closely do you get to work with your editor and letterer?
So with Undead Unluck, I work close enough without smothering each other, is the kind of relationship that me and Carla have with our editing style, our translation editing style. I do very meticulous work, and I make notes and stuff like that, and I fill my shit with notes. I'll be showing you that later. And I give them to Carla, and usually she doesn't really have any big questions because it's pretty concise as it is. But when she does have a question or anything like that, or maybe I'm missing a sound effect somewhere because my eyes are crap and I can't really see anything, she'll ask me like, oh, what's this or what's that, or what's she'll ask questions, which I like. I like it when editors ask questions, because it means that they give a shit about you.
Yep, exactly. Right.
So I really do appreciate that kind of back and forth. And for that, I don't really work with the letterer all that much. I just whenever she's done with something, they have a server, and I'll peek and see what's going on there. But I don't really have any connection, even email. I think I have her email because I was given her email, but I don't really have any connection with her at the moment. I would love to talk to her one day. I think she does amazing work, and if this is her first series, she's doing a bang-up job.
We have a question in the chat saying, yes, when do you get the raws? So for both Undead and Unluck and Kaiju, which I think is different for both of those.
Yeah, it's different. So for the week, like I said, chapters come in before the weekend, so I get them Thursday, Friday. And for Kaiju, it depends. It depends on when he decides to give them to me. Sometimes it's on Monday, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's on Friday. Like, it's very. I don't know really when I'm going to get Kaiju number 8 chapters. But usually it's around, I don't know, maybe Monday. I'm not too sure, but I get a lot of like leeway with Kaiju number 8 because it is so he releases so much in a batch. So
we have one more question. I think it said, so you have the weekend to translate the chapter, or does the lettering and the like need to be finished that weekend too?
So for what happens when you're the translator in this, you and the letterer have separate schedules. So I have about 3-ish days, give or take, given that I get the chapter and then I have to translate on, and I'm like, it's usually due on Monday for Undead Unluck. And then the letterer will take over from there, and then usually they're done in like a day. Like, I don't know, like they just bust that shit out. They're usually done in a day, and then that's when the revision process until release comes into play, and that's when all those eyes that I was talking about looks at the chapter for quality assurance.
And I think you said it was like 3 to 4 people are going to end up looking at it.
Yeah, at least I want to say 2 to 4 people can look at one chapter before it goes out. And for Kaiju number 8, because that was such a hellacious process getting this manga out. It wasn't hellacious, but it was just kind of like out of nowhere, and I just had to really buckle down because we put 5 chapters of Kaiju number 8 on the website. Viz did, at least, not me. But we got the materials in maybe like at the start of the week or something, and then Carla was like, "Hey, you don't have to accept it, but maybe we can. I figured that you would like to do the series," and I was like, "Okay, what's it about?" It's like, it's about kaiju, and then she sent me a link to the Jump Plus website, and I read it, and I was like, "Yeah, this looks cool. I'm down." So we had 2 chapters, and the first chapter, I was like, "Yeah, 2 chapters. That's cool, right?" And I don't know if anyone's read Kaiju number 8, but those first 2 chapters are long as hell. Like, they're just like 60 pages each.
Yeah, 56, and then like what, 40 something?
Yeah, it was like 56, 48, 24, and then like 1919 or something like that. But like basically I translated the first 2 chapters as the 4th and 5th one came in. So I was basically like translating an entire volume of manga in less than a week, because Carla had set a deadline for like a week, but I had actually done less than a week to translate that. And then we gave it to Brandon, and then Brandon, I don't know, worked his lettering magic on it, and then made it look amazing. And we were still correcting errors, and like, because I was going top speed, so I was going top speed. I didn't really. I was like, we could fix it later. So I was correcting errors up until the like almost towards the like production end. Like, it was about to go on the website. So I was like, oh my god! There's like some. Oh no! It's like, this is going to go on the website. Like, I had misspelled Mina's name. I was like, oh god, no one called her. Right. So. Yeah.
We have one more question that I think is really interesting before we go into talking about manga in general. So this question is from the real Sean Pie.
That's my friend Sean.
Hi there, Sean. So on average, how long does it typically take to translate a chapter? Are pages between 6 to 9 panels dreadful?
It depends on what the manga is, because Undead Unluck, it doesn't take me long. I guess it does. It usually takes me. I usually spend the whole day translating a chapter, on and off when I'm doing other stuff. But like, it doesn't really take me that long to, like, if I just went through it and didn't give a shit. But 6 to 9 panels dreadful. I mean, it could be 6 to 9 panels of nothing, right? It could be 6 to 9 panels of action sound effects. So, just be like, and that's it. But I don't think it's that bad. Actually, I love translating manga. I wish I could just translate manga. But
Help it. Actually, we have another question kind of super related to that. So, do you like the series that you translate? This person, Lucid Zurump 19 says, I'm honestly curious to see whether or not this is the case with some translators, whether they actually like translating.
Like the stuff there. I mean, when you accept a job, right? You unless you're like completely disconnected with the thing that you're working on, you're going to have to form some sort of affinity with what you produce, because if you don't, it shows in your work, being like super cynical in like how the way you're translating stuff. So I've even like things that I've like initially been like, what, I end up coming to like, like, or I have some sort of affinity for, like, I would, if you told 10 years ago I would be working on a Neko Para game, I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? Kind of, what? Neko Para? Cat girls? But I've worked on at least 3 or 4 games, so I must like it. Like, I do like the series that I translate, and I wouldn't vouch for something that I don't like. So I do like Undead Unluck. I love Undead Unluck. I love Kaiju number 8. I think they're great. I think that both mangaka are, really, and their staff are really knocking it out of the park. And I legit like both series. So, I hope that answers the question.
Very cool. So let's just talk about working with manga as a medium in general. So, what would you say are the challenges of working with manga?
I feel like in comparison to other forms of media that, Japanese to English media, you're constricted by the space you're given. So unless you don't care, unless you're just like putting stuff everywhere, like, you have to keep a lot of things in mind when you're translating manga, which is like you're working with art. So you have to make sure that what you're saying matches with what's being portrayed, or something. Even like sound effects, like you have to make sure that the sound effects like sound like something a human would read in a comic book, as opposed to just some like, that's the meaning, but it doesn't really like, gel with the art, or like, does it really gel with like what's going on. And I feel like you just have to be more conscious of what you're doing when you're translating manga, as opposed to like novels or visual novels. That, while visual novels do have the visual element, they're usually a lot of the description is actually text. So you still have to kind of be good with prose, or like, use, good descriptors for stuff like that. With novels, you can just kind of like use as many words as you want, as long as it fits. As long as like, you don't have one big run-on sentence that just kind of like meanders a lot. You can kind of do that with novels. You can kind of paint your own picture. You paint your own picture with novels, and you make, a swath that people reading will identify with. With manga, you already have the visuals there. You just have to use the right words to connect those two pieces together.
Convey
So,
the nuances and the content, everything that is needed for
right.
the English audience to have that sort of replication of the feeling that the Japanese audience gets to have.
Right, and I think it's very important to give people the same kind of reading experience, even if it's not the same words per se. Like, it's not the same because it's Japanese. Japanese and English couldn't be any more different from each other. Like, they're just completely different in grammar and vocabulary and stuff like that. So you want to give them the same kind of experience without hampering what the original work is trying to set out. So I find that personally very important when I'm doing anything that has to do with manga. I want to grab the same pathos, the same kind of feeling that you get when I initially read a chapter to the reading audience. Because if that happens, then I know, and everyone's getting hyped up and shit, then I know that then we're good. Shonen manga should be exciting. So.
Really, yeah. So how would you say those challenges compare to those in like visual novels or light novels, subtitles, other media?
Yeah,
Like, how would you compare those?
because every medium has its own challenges, right? With visual novels, you have like kind of like, programming limitations. Like sometimes you can't get the amount of text you want into a box because like there are text limitations, or the game engine wasn't made for like that much text in English. So you have to like do stuff around it. In
Right.
like light novels, you have to like be careful of like making sure that your sentences aren't word soup, because Japanese is very infamous for having, here's a noun and then here's like 15 different verb phrases that describe. It's like Martha went to the store to buy an apple, but the apple was eaten by Francis. Francis went to the store on Monday, and the Monday store of the future is now gone because of a time warp. And it's like, and you have to kind of like make sense of these like meandering sentences that make sense in Japanese because the way that you parse the language. But like in English, it just sounds stupid. Like it doesn't sound like, it sounds unintelligible. So you have to make sense of that. And I find that every medium has its own twists and turns when it comes to stuff like that, and I try my best to make sure that I'm not like, I try to catch myself doing like, what is it called, translatees, like where it's accurate
Yes.
but it's not intelligible or readable or good.
That's why they call it rough draft number 1, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And then go through it, comb through it like a whole bunch of times, and then you're like, okay, legible, good.
Right.
Great. So, yeah, so I guess out of all those mediums, what would you say is the easiest or, and most difficult for you to translate? And also on the same token, like what takes the most time, what takes the least time? What, with all that.
So the easiest, I feel like, well, they're all hard in their own way, but like, I guess in terms of like ease of difficulty, like I lean more towards manga as being easier, but I feel like it's just less hard. If that's a better way of putting it.
It's
less hardest. It's the less hardest of all the hard. It's soft, right? It's a soft process. Right. But I feel like I'm using less time thinking about just like a big chunk of text by itself. Like I said, with prose, you kind of have to like be conscious of what you're doing, because if not, it's going to be unintelligible and no one's going to be able to understand what you're talking about. And, right. With manga, you already have the pictures there. You just have to make sure that people are interested in what's being portrayed to them and being said to them at the same time. So I spend more time on individual lines of dialogue in manga than I do, maybe individual lines in a visual novel or a light novel or whatever, right? Because
I think this might be a perfect time for you to whip out that one slide that's talking about, if you translated this literally, it would have sucked.
Oh, right. Let me pull that up, actually.
Cool.
Right. So some astute viewers that have probably seen my Twitter have probably seen this.
Oh, wait, hold on. Check. Can you guys see it?
Yeah, I think they could see this. It's on the viewfinder, I think.
Oh, yeah. Okay, good.
So, this was on my Twitter. I did it, like, I think the day of this chapter. It was chapter 12 of Kaiju number 8. And, basically, this one panel is a panel. It took me 2 or 3 hours just to, like, really get the right, like, phrasing, because this line is very easy to follow in Japanese because all the information is portrayed right there, but in English it would just sound really, really clunky. Like he's basically saying, like, based on the success or failure of this, I guess, you can say, like, in parentheses, based on the success or failure, it'll swing the balance of the time and money spent on restoration and the scale of damage done in a huge way. This is a very important job. But that sounds like crap. That sounds like fucking awful. That's awful. That's clunky as hell. No one's gonna be. They're gonna lose track of what you're even talking about. So I took this into a separate document and I just wrote it out. And I was like, let me try and parse this in a way that makes sense. And I figured out, like, hey, do I want to even, like, put this as, like, it is? Because, like, right now, the subject is the very end. And I would have to translate all this stuff on top of, the subject. So I just flipped it. And I was like, do I want to make this 2 sentences or 1? So I ended up making it 2 sentences because it seemed better that way. And then it ended up being, this is a crucial task. Our success or failure here will determine the scale of damage and ultimately dictate the amount of time and money spent on rebuilding.
And I gotta say it again, like I said yesterday, I love the ultimately dictate translation for Sayu Saderu because it's just perfect. It's just really good.
Yeah, and that was a decision that was kind of massaged in by Carla, and I kudos to her because what I had before, I don't even know what the thing I submitted was, but that's way better. So that's an example of
she really cleaned it. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
What else have we got here? So I guess while we're talking about this stuff, so what is your general process when it comes to translating manga? Like, what is your general way you do it?
So I'm gonna switch back real quick. Let me see here. I have a slide for this. Don't worry, guys. This is a bang up operation.
It's not a trick. It's not a lie.
It's not a lie. Time. We're good. Okay, so a general process for let's start all the way at the very beginning. Okay, let's start off with scripts, right? When we talk about manga translation, a lot of people don't realize that I'm giving them a script of what they're going to be putting on the page. It's not just like I magic some like stuff on the page and then everyone's just like, wow, that was amazing. Like, I wish I could do that, right? I wish it wasn't such a back-breaking, bone-crunching process, but we have to do it this way, otherwise shit doesn't get done. Mm-hmm. So, and let me go back here. So, setting up the script for a typical chapter of a manga, for me, this is how Viz does it, or this is how the way the Viz doesn't give a shit that I do it, so I do it this way. So this is what happens. And it's different for each series that I'm on, because not every manga is the same, right? So each chapter of Undead Unluck starts with a splash page, or Tobidae, and it has the chapter title with the author name. And I can make templates out of this, because basically it's going to be the same thing every time, so nothing's really going to change, and if it does, okay, whatever. Templates for sound effects and notes can be made as well, like you see there, bam, don, and I don't know if anyone else does this, but I do this, where I translate the sound effects and then I give it like a little note of what the original Japanese is, with like a descriptor of what's happening in the page, or what it means, you know what I mean? So
if it's like hard to understand what it is, like if it's like Zoom, that's for me, but yeah, definitely I totally
because there are some sound effects that they might like look at and be like, why did you translate like that? But then I'll explain why I translated it that way.
Right.
And I usually just put like when I worked on Tokyo Ghoul, they gave me an example of a script, and I think it was by Caleb Cook. And I think he does something similar to this, and I just kind of did it where all the notes are in red. So that's what I did. I just put all my notes in red with brackets. And because I did do Tokyo Ghoul, and that's like 270,000 pages, I had to find a way to break up the pages that was a little bit more intelligible, because my eyes don't really look at the page number. they look at like something like, oh, okay, it looks at something in the actual body of the work. So I put highlights on everything. So I put a yellow highlight on everything, just so every page is broken up a little bit easier for the eye. And I do that for the chapter title, and I do that for the chapter number as well. So, yeah, Caleb, you rock. Yeah, he. Oh wow, I see Steiner and Mr. Knob, the legend, is here as well. What's going on, guys?
Thanks for joining.
This is going to be archived, Knob. Don't worry about it. We got you covered. I got this recording right now. This bad boy's recording, and all the UV settings are good. So, actually, can we tell them what happened yesterday? Just like a little aside. So we did a little I guess practice session beforehand, and I was recording it, right? And I was like, cool, that should be, we should be good. I should be able to know what time we're going to be doing stuff and shit like that. It was really cool, and we discussed a lot of stuff, and I was like, okay guys, I'll upload this later so you guys can watch it. And then I looked at the VOD, and they were fucking fine, right? They were talking yippity yapping, and I'm sitting over here
literal silence.
It was literal silence. I was
his audio record for him for some reason, so he was just pantomiming to us in the silence. It was hilarious.
Yeah,
we didn't know until afterwards, so that could have happened today.
Yeah, that could have happened today, guys.
Could have just been us. Oh, I see a Bovia there.
Oh. Brandon, Mr. Bovia is here as well. I was just talking about you and how you fuck up Kaiju number 8 every fucking week.
But anyway, so I love seeing your setup for this script. So is your setup for the Kaiju number 8 script the same?
It's about the same, but a little different. So each chapter of Kaiju number 8 starts with an opening splash or a cold open into with info in a panel. So it'll start off with maybe a splash page, but then sometimes it just cuts in and it's just Kaiju number 8. And Kaiju number 8 doesn't have chapter titles; they just have chapter numbers, which is actually really funny because it means less work for Brandon. But it's also funny because if you look at because I'm a cheater, I bought the most recent volume of Kaiju number 8 because it just came out in Japan. The splash pages just have chapter 2 and that's it. And it's all right, cool.
All right, great.
That's awesome. Shit, I'll do that then. And then so because of this, I can make templates, but I have to be a little bit more conscious of what is actually in the chapter, as opposed to Undead Unluck, where I'm just okay, here's the first page, boom, and then that's it. But the same stuff for sound effects and notes are pretty much the same. I just put notes in red and I put them all over the place because
didn't you say that you do double parentheses? What was that with the example?
Yeah, I think for the next example, I'll get to that actually. I'll get into that. But because of that, so this is how I go about processing a single page of manga. Which is I go over the page as a whole, and I attribute which bubble goes where, and sound effects and stuff like that. Kakimoji are identified, asides, because usually the author will write a little tiny piece of dialogue off to the side in the bubble, outside the bubble, on people's heads, on top of the page, wherever, and I have to do those as well. And then once everything is comprehended and ID'd, I get to work on the character dialogue, which is a first pass. Your first pass is going to be rough. It's going to look like word soup. It's I showed you with the Hoshina example, that it's just all over the goddamn place. So who gives a shit about it? But once the first pass is done, shape the dialogue and insert the character speech into the second pass. Split up the dialogue that needs to be split. That means you make a better version of what you just put down on the, Mary goes to the store and buys an apple from the guy who went, you get that, and then you make that a little bit more smooth, right? With a V, right? And once that's done, you find out where you need to split up the dialogue, and once you can split the dialogue up well enough, that's when you go to the third pass, where you shape the dialogue even more. You drop any unnecessary verbiage, prepositions that are just hanging for no reason, clunky sounding lines, like, all your base art belong to us, or some other dumb reference I'm making. And then you focus on readability and line splits. And then that kind of looks like this. So as you can see here in my script over here, this is my first script with Manga for Viz. So it's not the same as I use it now. Because as you can see where it says Izumo, underneath that's another line of dialogue. That should have another dialogue tag there. Just to discern whether or not it's in the same bubble or not. Because that's very important for the editor and people involved. Which I found out because of Carla. Because Carla was editing my scripts that way. I looked at them and I was like, oh, I should do it that way then. And that's why I do it now. And also there's where it says head, it should have ellipses beforehand, because otherwise it's its own separate piece of dialogue instead of a run-on from the previous bubble. Actually to this date I still call her Izumo in my scripts. I haven't changed it from the first chapter. I just keep calling her Izumo.
It works.
Yeah, it works. And then there's only one sound effects on this page, so yeah. And this is basically what I give to Carla, and then she will work her magic and her magic fingers on everything. And as you can see, actually, Andy's Ine, that's his catchphrase right there. That's sick. I had it originally as good shit. And this is before I knew the rules. Like, I didn't know the rules of working in Shonen Jump, so I was just like, okay, I'll just put this down and see what happens. And then she's like, oh yeah, we can't use the S word. I'm just like, fuck. So, but she came up with something based off of what I'd done later in the chapter, where I think I used the word the sickest for, because basically it comes as a set, Ine Saikoda, and it's like sick and then wicked sick. But I was going to go good shit, that's the sickest. So she ended up bumping the sickest to sick, and then ending a wicked Cali style to sick again. So it worked out in the end.
Very cool. And also because of the double brackets that you mentioned yesterday, well, just now as well. So basically you mean like with this on the right, you have one, so you have Izumo, one, and then you would put Izumo again under that.
Yes. Another dialogue tag to denote that there's a different, because you can see there's two bubbles in the first panel, but there's only one dialogue tag. So double dialogue tags allows you to, like, that basically makes the person reading it discern that, oh, there's a different, that's in a different bubble, basically.
Okay. Cool. So while we're talking about Undead Unluck, why don't we just jump right into that manga? So for viewers who don't know about it, or even for those who do, what is the basic plot of this manga?
So this manga is about a naked guy and he gets smooches a lot and dies, and they're trying to kill God or something. Honestly, this manga is off the rails. Like, it changes plots every week. So it's like Fuko has like a curse basically that she thinks she has, and she kills anybody basically who she touches. And she finds this naked undead guy who she thinks is a zombie, and then they go on wacky hijinks every week until they eventually have to kill God. And that's the plot of the manga.
Oh, just like an everyday sort of thing. Oh yeah, I just gotta, not touch that person, then I gotta kill God.
Yeah, just kill God.
Tuesday. So, okay, well, let me ask you then. So, which characters in the manga do you find, the most fun translating? Because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of
Yeah.
chaos. It's a very fast-paced moving manga, so you're introduced to quite a few.
Mhm.
So, yeah, who do you have the most fun with, or who's like difficult and things like that?
I think that I have a lot of fun writing for Andy because I I can identify with Andy a lot because he's a wisecracking, smartass, cynical, half dead guy, and that's basically me as a freelance translator. Like, I just that's me, right? Like I have that kind of personality, and it gels with me. It gels with
Mhm.
me. So like I have fun writing Andy. I also have fun writing Shen because he's kind of like a little like he's promiscuous kind of. He's kind of like a um, dandy kind of character, and I have fun with his dialogue, especially with the Chinese.
Mhm.
um, so like I like Andy and I like Kafka as well, even though we're not talking about that, but I like Kafka because of the same quality. Like
Mhm.
he's a schlubby 30-year-old blue collar worker, and I can very much identify with that as someone who worked at a Home Depot for 6 years outside in the snow,
Oh,
going uphill both ways.
no more of that, right? It just
Yeah.
switched to manga, so.
Oh yeah, we I was ready to jump ship with visual novels. I was like, "See you later, amigos," and then I jumped in a car with flowers because it was Mother's Day, and I gave it to my mom, and I was like, I quit.
She's like, oh, great. No,
Hmm.
but very
Oh
cool.
yeah.
So, all right, let's see. So, Andy, you're talking about, yeah, he's just ultimate badass. That
Yeah.
seems like very much fun to translate. So, you were mentioning Shen, the one who speaks Chinese and stuff. Does it require a lot of research or anything to, look at
Um.
the Chinese original phrases and translate that into Japanese? I
So
mean,
in yeah, well, I mean, like, because in the Japanese version of Undead Unluck, they use Japanese, like subtitled Japanese for
mhm.
his Chinese. So I know what he's saying or what he's trying to say. So I translate off of that. But for the Chinese, I still need something from the Chinese because, you know, so I take that from the, they give me a PDF and I just take that and then I run it through Google Translate to see what the romanization is. And once I
Mhm.
see the romanization, I, bug a Chinese friend of mine or something, and I just ask them, "Hey, is this all right?" And he's like, "Yeah, whatever, man." And it's like, I don't know, he's playing Fortnite or something. He's just like, "Yeah, whatever," and I'm just like, "All right, cool." And then I just like send it off, in the dialogue.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, "All right, I guess that's good enough." And sometimes it's sometimes it's like really simple shit like it's like shay shay or like they say like understood Zydol or something like that. I think. Um, so I just that's what I do. Like I have no. I'm a Japanese to English translator, not Chinese to English translator.
Mhm. No, I get you. So, let's see. What do I want to ask you next? There's so much about Undead Unluck. So, I guess I want to go to the slide that I'm seeing here. I'm wondering if everyone's seeing this dealing with double talk.
Oh, okay. Let me get to that real quick. Okay, so I actually added one more because this is like these are like lines in Undead Unluck that I'm proud of because when dealing with this kind of stuff, because Undead Unluck uses Ruby letters for Hiragana for dialogue, but not just for keywords like in some manga. So like you'll have like the word for like you'll have like keto, which is like duel or something like that, and then on top of it it'll say like batoru, which is like battle, right? And that'll be like keywords in the sentence or something like that. But this they use it for things in the actual dialogue, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it just have like a completely different meaning altogether. Um, and this one, this specific one, I just wanted to point out because this one is he says that he's like ore no onna da, but the furigana says she. So he's saying that she's my death. She's my woman and she's my death, basically. Um, the translation I went with was "This girl is mine, my ticket to die," and that's actually a Paul McCartney reference. Yeah, the girl is mine from the Michael Jackson song, and my ticket to die, my ticket to ride. And I always wondered if anyone ever caught that, but I guess not. And this one actually is the one that I wanted to highlight because this one is a very good example of what I was talking about. If you directly translated this line, it would fall apart immediately because Andy says, he's kaite daite ore ga kawaru, right? But the furigana says, hore sasete daite ore ga shinu. So he's saying in the first instance, he's saying, I'm going to change, I'm going to bump uglies, and then I'm going to change. I'm going to change her, I'm going to change her, I'm going to bump uglies, and I'm going to change myself. But the furigana is, hore saseru is like, make her fall in love with me, then we're going to do the business, and then I'm going to die. So with this, I had to kind of use both meanings to make a more nuanced translation. So I'll change her heart, then once we've sealed the deal, I'll change my mortality, that is. So I used both instances of what was being portrayed to me, and I combined them into one sentence. And especially because in this arc, change was a very big motif. It was a very big motif of, like, because the villain, Gina, she's, like, obsessed with not changing, unchanging, right? But, a lot of it was in focus with change, and that was in a lot of dialogue, and especially the chapter titles, because for those 3 chapters, they were basically like, you haven't changed at all, let's bring in some change and other things like that. But in Undead Unluck specifically, the chapter title relates to a piece of dialogue in the actual chapter. So anything that you make in the chapter for a change, you have to kind of reflect in the chapter title in that case. So the ruby letters here relate to a major theme in the arc. And in this example, Andy says, sa kawaroze, and, it on the side it says shino. So he's saying, come on, let's change. But, the ruby is saying, come on, let's die. So the ruby doesn't necessarily denote the intended reading here. It denotes a implied reading, right? And it's up to you to whether or not you're going to discern it as one or the other. But in English, we don't have that kind of device. So I had to make this a little bit more lengthier. I made it 3 lines just like it was in the original, but I used 2 lines in 1 bubble. So it's, all right, Gina, let's bring in some change. Killer change, that is, right? Because you're changing, change and die are both in there, right? At the same time.
Right.
And it perfectly, well, I don't want to say perfectly, but it adequately combines those 2 elements together in a way that's coherent and sounds like something that the character would say. So.
And you got all that double meaning intact. Right. So, I mean, that's, I think, one of the most important parts, because if you have just a literal translation, I really don't know how that would come up. Like, I really don't know how that would be.
It would just be, come on, let's change Gina. And then, okay, that's it. That's all you get from that line. You just don't, you lose everything that the line was trying to portray, right? It would be implied that, oh, let's change means maybe, let's die or something like that. But because it's so prominently there in Japanese, it's kind of like you're missing part of the dialogue itself by not bringing it in. Right.
In the same vein, are there any like terms or scenes that you translated that you're particularly proud of?
This one in specific, I think, like, this whole arc, I was very proud of this. Like,
it's hard, definitely.
Yeah, it was because it was challenging trying to find the right wording for this, but I did it, like, after the first time. Like, my first draft, I kind of already knew what I wanted to do, but I was specifically proud of this scene, and like I said, I'm proud of it, but I don't really care if people notice it. You know what I mean? I care more about you comprehending the work in
And the
some way, shape, or
meanings
form.
and the nuance that are supposed to be buried in the text and the implications for sure.
Yeah, so I wanted to make sure that everyone was on the same page as I was when I was translating, this slide or, the previous slide as well. Like, these are things that sounded like completely okay English. Like, this is English that's just fine, right? No one knew that I translated this because it was like I know two John, Paul McCartney things. Like, I can just kind of merge them together to make like a coherent translation. No one knew that unless I told you, right? And I think that's the most important thing. A lot of people are like, some people will be a little bit more zealous about, oh, I put this reference in, oh, I put that reference in. I like more subtle burn references that are just kind of like, I know that they're there, but they're not distracting. You know what I mean?
Exactly. They're not supposed to distract from the work anyway, unless it's
Right.
that type of work, I guess, that allows for it.
Yeah.
But we got a question down here. So, does Undead Unluck require more creativity than any other title?
Well, I only work on 2 manga titles at the moment, and Undead Unluck definitely does take a degree more creativity. I would say, like, in comparison to Kaiju number 8, because Undead Unluck is its own. Well, both of them are their own universe, but like the universe of Undead Unluck is so rife with nonsense, and it's so crazy, it's so batshit insane. Like, everything is flipped on its head. Like, like, oh, there's no stars in this universe, and it's like, what? And then you like look, and you're like, oh my god, there is no stars, and like you just have to like kind of have to like think of things like, they're trying to kill God, so that just means that I can't really use the word, like, I can't use oh god that often.
Right.
Like, there's stuff like
Yeah.
that you kind of have to like think of. And like, even recently, the last chapter of Undead Unluck that came out before this one, where we were taking a trip back to 1800s, right? I just talked about how, Sick and Wicked Sick were such great contributions to the manga, and it's so good and it fits everywhere. But now they're back in 1800s, and he says the same thing in Japanese, but now he's saying Sick and Wicked Sick in the 1800s. And now it's like, okay, I guess you just have to suspend your disbelief, because I can't really do shit about that now. Like, it's already too far gone, right? So like, I have to like just, it just has to happen like that, right? And
If they're also trying to go kill God, I think everybody is suspending their disbelief a little bit.
yeah, I mean, like, if you can, like, it's not period accurate, but it's, I guess it's not supposed to be, because technically they're speaking Japanese in the 1800s, and like, you just whatever, right? There's a certain element you just have to like, whatever. Ill, wicked, ill, yeah. I was thinking about that, actually. I was thinking of making it ill, wicked, ill, and then I was like, that sounds terrible. But
We've got another question here. How does creativity play in translating dialects in English?
So I made a thread about this on Twitter for when I'm Hoshina, because I can actually, let me go back to the previous slide, and boom. So Hoshina actually is, you see that ya that's at the very end of his Japanese dialogue? That's a copula for da in normal Japanese, but in Japanese Kansai accent, or Kansai Ben, that's their copula. So like, he speaks with a very subdued but very there Kansai accent. And I try to incorporate that into his text as much as possible, but I don't want to make him go full yeehaw, because it's distracting and it doesn't really add anything to his characterization, aside from the fact that, hey, look, funny accent, right? Jingle the keys in front of everyone's faces, right? Like, it just doesn't make sense to make him so like, like, yeehaw guys, what's going on, we're gonna fight some kaiju. Like, I don't want that to happen. I don't want to turn him into like a gold prospector from the 1800s. So I
That's
try, yeah. So I try to like maybe cut off his gerunds. Like I try to add like an apostrophe in in apostrophe or whatever. His verbiage, his use of like words, like instead like he says ahona or something like that, and ahona is like bakano or something like that. Which is like the like impossible or something crazy. But like I use like the word nuts because like I was like, oh, that's nuts. Like that just sounds more like dialecty. Like it sounds like something that's a more regional dialect than the normal way that you would translate things.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So I try very hard if they do have a dialect to bring that in, and even like keigo and stuff like that, like respectful speech and teinego and sonkeigo and stuff like that. I try to like incorporate that into the text as well,
Right.
if I can. But
Yeah, didn't you say that you also have like in Undead Unluck there's like Gina-chan or there's like
oh
Mui-chan?
yeah. So for that, like I'll do like with those kind of things because in Shonen Jump you don't really use honorifics.
Mhm.
We have to kind of get inventive. So Mr. and Mrs. is fine, but and Master and Lord and like titles are fine, but like stuff like Chan, you kind of have to be discerning about it. So like a regular use of Chan would probably be like, maybe oh my dear, or little whatever, I think Gina actually has like she calls she calls Andy Deddochin, and she calls Deddochin, and she calls Izumo Gakuchin. So in English, I called it was Daddy Dearest and Little Lucky. So and no one gave me shit about that, and I think everyone liked it because that's just what she calls them. Well, she's dead, but you know what I mean.
No, I get you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
So
Good. So
just. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, it's okay. I was just saying with because Undead is so chaotic and the plot develops super fast, do you have any difficulties, dealing with that pacing at all?
All the time. Absolutely every single second that I am dealing with Undead Unluck, it's a new test in what the hell is going to pop up that I did not catch the first time. Right?
Mm.
Like
Well, resources, right? Like you only have that one chapter to reference, right? When
I
you
have
get
the one
this.
chapter and the chapters before that. So I have to like keep in mind what is going on. I have to like write it down in like the glossary / style guide that I keep nowadays, and I just have to like hope to God that I'm right? Because like what was it? I think in one chapter, the chapter. I don't want to go into spoilers, but one chapter there's a character who gets a power, or they explain a power in a way that was no one had it thought it was going to be like that. But if you actually look in the chapter he uses the power, it's like, oh shit, oh wow, that's how it worked. Like everyone thought it was like, oh, he has to do this or that, and everyone looked in the chapter that it was, and it was like, oh, okay. And even I had to do that. I was like, I wrote a note, and I'm like, what the fuck, did you know this? And no one did. So but yeah, but Undead Unluck can be very weird and stressful, but for different reasons other than the fact that it, translating stuff. It's just like keeping up with like the turn of events.
Right.
Right, and I don't think you got to that slide yet, or if you did, I totally forgot. But with Kaiju number 8, you get 3 chapters, I believe, at a time, and then there's like a break chapter or something, so you're working with a lot more content.
Yeah, like it
Therefore,
was like a breath of fresh air after like dealing with Kaiju number 8. I mean, with Undead Unluck, just getting like 3 chapters worth of context. I'm like, that's awesome. That is great.
Right.
Because with Simulpubs, you're at the mercy of like the next chapter. So with that, I can like if a character references a line in the previous chapter that I also have, I can look back in that chapter and I can go like, oh, okay. Then I can change it on the fly, and I can make it more synonymous, right? I can just make it like I can make it better on the fly.
Without committing it, you'd be like, oh, I'm like, I could go back, and that's great. Yeah.
Right, because I'm not like I don't have to retrofit stuff. With Undead, I usually have to retrofit stuff that I've prior decisions. But with Kaiju number 8, I usually have a lot of time to not do that. Like, I don't have to do that. I can make things a little bit more, like cohesive. So.
Right, because of all the chapters that you have and things like that. So I'm guessing that Kaiju number 8 is easier, I guess, to deal with. Is that what you would say? Like, how compared to Undead Unluck, what's it like translating Kaiju number 8?
So I have a slide for that. This is how I process one page of Kaiju number 8. And for Kaiju number 8, it's web only, and it doesn't use it. It's a similar process. I go through the chapter, go through the page, and see who's talking to who, and what's happening in each in each panel. But because of the target audience, or like the medium that they're using, there's no furigana really. Like, there's furigana, but it's specifically used for something like a double meaning or something like that. So like it only happens in specific instances, and there are several types of bubble shapes and sizes that aren't really connected with arrows. So like stuff like panel, you'll see like worker 1, worker 2, worker 2, and then you go down to worker 2. He's speaking on the very bottom of the panel, panel 4 and 5, between those two. So you have to be more discerning about how you're reading things and how you're tagging stuff, because I'll be honest, I missed this because I was like trying to blaze through this stuff, and I just kind of like, I thought that Kafka was saying it, and then I looked back on it before I submitted it, and I was like, oh shit, wait. And then that didn't make any sense. So yeah, it's easy to misattribute if you're not paying attention. But the author uses speech, keigo and yakuwarigo, basically. That's like a new term for this kind of thing. Yakuwarigo is sort of like your role language of like people in manga, or like in media in general. Like, old men talk like this and women talk like this, right? Like, you'll see more like specific copula, like old people will say ja after everything, instead of da, and then like women will say dawa, like, or stuff like that. But this mangaka uses a lot of that, and that's how you can kind of keep track of who's saying what. Because in this one page, there's like someone using keigo, there's someone using funny dialect, and there's like the boss who's talking like he's talking like a boss, and then you got Kafka who's yarfing in his fucking suit. So yeah, it can be like that, and this is what it looks like on my script. And as I told you before with the dialogue tags, that's what it looks like now. Like, each bubble has its own little dialogue tag to it. And oh wow, I actually did use yarf. I don't think it ended up being yarf.
I know. Nice try.
Yeah. Bleh. Yeah. So yeah, and this is what it looks like finished. Like, once Brandon went through it and lettered it, this is the way that they wanted it to look like on the website. So yeah, it's a lot easier to manage plot wise. And the content of what they're giving me is a lot more in line to like what a normal shonen jump manga would be like, I suppose. But was barf unacceptable? I don't think it was, but I didn't want to use barf. I wanted to use, like, I don't know, like like I was like making up like throw up sounds. I was like barf, like, I don't know.
This is still the part of the job of the translator, right? Yeah. To make these sounds in our room and write down the best one.
Yeah, so it's just like, you know,
It's really
it's
good.
like your like I'm like even when I'm translating sound effects, which I'll get into a little bit, I make the sounds in my mouth. I'm just like like I sound like an idiot, and everyone outside my door probably thinks the same thing, but yeah, that's that's how it goes sometimes as a manga translator.
Going to something a little different. I mean, you could talk about this with both Kaiju number 8 and Undead Unluck, but how do you go about finding the perfect voice for each character?
I mean, there's going to be, I feel like there's no perfect solution. There's just going to be stopgap measures that you're just going to have to deal with. And with me, I just try and like, okay, I know what this guy sounds like in Japanese. Let me try and emulate what he might sound like if he's talking English, right? So it's a process, because then you really have to like find your groove for certain characters. Like, you know, Andy's really easy for me to write with because he's just like a big piece of shit, right? But like but Fuko, she's a little bit timid, and you know, I have to kind of like dig deeper for, you know, writing dialogue in a more succinct way. You know, Kafka is like a schlubby dude, and that's pretty easy to work with. Rano is like, you know, he's a kid that's very respectful towards his elders, I guess. You know, in a way that it's not even like respectful. He kind of like, he sounds like if you go to a convenience store in Japan, he's that kid, right? But he's just like, he's like kind of cynical kind of respect. But for Kafka, he's actually kind of respectful for him because of what he does, and that's why he calls him senpai in Japanese. But I didn't want to use senpai, so I used sir. For that.
I was going to ask you about that. I like that a lot. It sounds really natural, like the way he talks to Kafka. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I feel like if he just called him like senpai all the time, then you would get really distracted, kind of. Just because it's like, you know, it's more multi-purpose if you can use sir like all over the place. So.
And he is just like, what? So Reno is 17, right? He's like the subordinate, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
Of him?
Yeah, like pretty much he's his kohai, so. But in like, even in instances where like you use senpai alone, I'll usually like work around it. Like I'll have him call him by like, oh, that's Kafka, my workplace senior, like, or something like that. Like I'll tag it with like what he is and his name. But like, you know, I don't know. I wanted to avoid using senpai in this manga.
So before we transition fully into Kaiju number 8, I was just wondering if anyone in the chat had questions about Undead Unluck that maybe we didn't answer.
I think I saw like a few.
Oh.
Back there. Okay, so how do you go about translating humor? My way of translating, I don't even know if this guy's still in the chat. I hope you are, guy. But like, how do I translate humor? I mean, like, people have told me that I'm funny. I don't know if I actually am. I think I just make a bunch of really shitty jokes and people like give me the and then like they move on. But like, I try to like insert as much humor as I can into the lines that need humor. And I usually do that in a way that's like, you know, if I'm telling a joke, what would it look like? You know, I don't want any, if it's not like a really har funny joke, I don't want to just like go on an open mic or something. It's not stand up. I'm a fucking translator. I'm not a comedian. But yeah, I mean, like, that's basically how I go about it. I think I do it all right, but I mean, if you've ever read Undead Unluck and you've laughed at something that's dialogue related and not exactly like visual related, then I think it's good. I think there's like one example that's like a really good example of a joke where I think it's like chapter 4 or something like that, and they do like they fall out of a plane, right? And he has to do a 5-point landing, and he totally fucks up the landing, and like he's like, you know, breaking everything in his body as he's tumbling towards the ground. and he's like going through the steps as he's like fucking up the steps as he's going about tumbling on the ground. He's like, first you land on your balls, your feet, your butt, and then it's like, and then at the very end he's like, suck it, and then like at the very end, he's like, I think Fuko says like, did you just say suck it? And he's just like, no, I said success. And in Japanese, it was like he goes through all that, and he's like shiruka, like he's like, I don't give a shit. And then like she's like, did you just say shiruka? And he's just like, no, I said seiko, like seiko, success. So I guess that works, right? You know, like that's like one example of like humor that you know, everyone was dying laughing. I bet reading that. And I think there was one more.
There's another one.
There was one that says, "What are your takes on scanlation and early raws and leaks?" I hate early leaks. I hate leaks in general. I don't like them. I don't think anybody who works on Shonen Jump does, because it kind of undermines what we're doing. You know, when these people are already providing you with something that you can have on the same day as Japan, you just want to go fuck it up. And I mean, you can go read them. I'm not the fucking, you know, chastity police or whatever, but like when people start posting them online, it kind of becomes a problem, because then it just kind of undermines everyone else. And for scanlation, I mean, like, I really have no idea on that anymore. Like I don't even know. Like, do people still do it? Probably do, right? But I mean, it's whatever. That's just one of those things that's probably never going to leave, and that's a whole separate topic. So it's like whatever.
Oh, sorry. There's one more question. How do you deal with feedback from Undead fans who say they feel the series has problematic themes?
I mean, I don't deal with fans. I deal with fans in a minimal context, like, but I'm not like I'm not like the ambassador for Undead Unluck, right? But you know, if like a lot of the themes in the very beginning, like, come off as like very sexual predatorily or whatever, but I mean, like, I have no strong opinions either way, because like Jump has had like that kind of shit in it forever. Like, if you even go back to like some of the very first manga in Jump, it's been like that. Sure, I mean, it sucks, and I don't, you know, approve of like stuff like that in real life. And I don't approve of that kind of stuff. Like, you shouldn't emulate that kind of shit. But for me, like, that's kind of like a moral quandary I don't really have to think about. I just have to like make sure that if you have a problem, you can take it up with, you know, the manga artist. Like, that's his problem. You know, like, that's not my problem as a translator. I'm like the in between, you know, giving you like, don't shoot the messenger, basically, right? But I mean, like, I don't approve of sexual assault. Like, if I have to go on record for saying that, I don't think that you should go out and rope your nearest friend, right? So yeah, but yeah, that's pretty much, and we're kind of past that as a thing, right? So like, we don't. I mean, you can like, oh, those first two chapters. I see that all the time. Like, those first two chapters are rough. And it's like, yeah, well, for some people there are some, and you know, if you feel that strongly about it, you don't have to read it. I mean, don't read anything you're not comfortable with. But I mean, if you could find something enjoyable out of it, then read it. But for Undead Unluck, it's free on the internet. You can read the first chapter or something, and if it's not for you, cut it out. I'm not here to tell you anything else.
Right. And before we switch over to Kaiju number 8, we've got one more. Is Undead Unluck harder to translate than most series? And it feels like some of the world building concepts are surprisingly complex.
It's different from, well, I wouldn't say it's the most complicated thing I've worked on, but it can be kind of complicated to work on something. Imagine making a puzzle and you have no idea what's on the box, right? You have no idea what this puzzle is even supposed to look like. It could be like, you know, a 3-ring circus, or it could be like, you know, 2 old people in the park. Like, you have no idea what it even looks like. So I'm trying to piece together stuff on the fly every week with no context other than the stuff that's given to me. And that's it. That's all I got. I can't really do anything else. I just have to roll with the punches. So it's difficult in that sense. I can only imagine it's like the same thing for other series. My contemporaries that work with Shonen Jump, Caleb Cook, who like translates like 15,000 manga a day, and Stephen Paul, who works on One Piece, and they're all doing the same thing basically. I mean, like, just because I'm saying like for my series doesn't mean that doesn't happen for them as well. They have their own hardships. I think Paul Starr, who works on Roboco, and Mori King, like, he has his own problems with humor because he does a lot of gag manga. So, if you want to ask like how do you translate humor, you ask him because he's the one doing all the gag manga. Like me, I'm chilling with Undead Unluck, and the most I have to worry about is Andy's dick flopping out of his pants, right? So.
And then it's censored.
Yeah, it's.
People don't know, but.
Yeah.
But that is also very true.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, let's switch over to Kaiju number 8. Because I think we gave Undead a lot of love.
Mm-hmm.
So for people who don't know, what is the basic plot of this manga?
Undead Unluck is about a...
You mean Kaiju number 8?
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry, I'm getting all mixed up. Kaiju number 8 is about a world where kaiju exist, and they are taken care of. They are neutralized by a sector of the Japanese government called the Kaiju Attack Defense Force, and they basically take care of kaiju that emerge in Tokyo, which is like has the highest emergence rate, and they get neutralized by Division 3, third division of the neutralization branch of the government. And we follow the main character, who is Kafka Hibino, who is a schlubby 30-year-old blue-collar worker that works as a kaiju cleaner. He cleans up the mess that the kaiju attacks leave, or like the bodies and the carcasses and stuff like that. And he's childhood friends with the main character. The big honcho on the defense force, Mina. And they both said that they were going to join the defense force, and he ended up being a kaiju poop cleaner, and she ended up being like the big badass military lady.
And he's all like, I really want to be by her side. I gotta do what I can to get into the defense force. I gotta do this kind of thing.
Yeah, and basically it's his, you would think that it's just going to be his struggles trying to join the defense force, but he actually gets possessed by a kaiju himself and becomes Kaiju number 8, the ubiquitous Kaiju number 8.
And Kaiju, I mean, maybe we already said it, but just a monster, just a big.
Yeah, it was actually a very important part of the whole process because Kaiju, they never even thought about translating the word Kaiju for the manga. Mm-hmm. The decision was whether or not they used the word number 8 or 8. And they were going to go with 8, but then they saw some of the stuff in the chapter that explained like how kaiju are named and stuff like that, and so they went with number 8 without the pound sign. So we didn't. So, but ironically, the Manga Plus version uses the word monster pound signed 8. So I don't know what happened there, but that's not my problem.
So there are currently 2 translations of Kaiju number 8, correct?
Yep. Yeah, the one that I do is on the Shonen Jump website. The one that is done with Shueisha's own little freelancer squad, like their squad that they've used for their freelance work, that is done by someone else, and that's put on the Manga Plus website. And you can probably tell based off of like the typesetting and stuff like that. But I have no idea what's going on with that.
Did you check it out? Did you read
it?
Yeah,
I check it out every like time it comes out because I just want to see the differences.
Should I ask what you think of it, or is that?
I'll reserve my judgment. Because they're obviously working on a different time schedule, and like I have no idea what they're doing over there with like, I don't know what's going on over there, but more power to them. I don't know when they said maybe it would like change like once the some time had passed, but I don't know. Who knows? I'm just whatever. I'm working on this version. This is the one I know.
Gotcha. So how did you actually become the translator for this series? I think with Undead Unluck you said like a friend and getting you in, but what was with this one?
With this one, Carla hit me up and said, "Hey, I would love to work with you. I would love if you could work on this, but don't accept if you don't feel comfortable with it." And I said yes right away. And I was like, all right, cool. And that's how the 5-chapter, 156-page extravaganza started. And it's just been, magic from then on out, I guess. So.
Wow.
So it was more of they already knew my work, and they already knew that I was willing to do it, and that I was, I guess, good enough to do it. So I did it.
Cool.
Nice.
What difficulties, if any, did you have with Kaiju number 8?
Kaiju number 8's difficulties kind of just came with the initial hump. The initial 5-chapter hump was like the most difficult, and it's the one that sticks in my mind most readily often. But yeah, like that was like the biggest hump. I think that like one of the other ones is that for whatever reason they'll give us like incompleted documents. So a lot of the times we're getting a version that's not the version that'll go on the Jump Plus site. And there's been several examples of just like the dialogue being different or something. Like if you actually check the website, there are some I think someone pointed out like last week or the week before that there was a whole page that didn't have text on it. And I was just like, huh? And I looked on the Manga Plus site, and it was like the same thing. So I'm like, huh. And I looked on the Jump Plus site, there's dialogue there. I'm like, oh. So I emailed Carla up, and I was like, hey, you know that this doesn't have any dialogue? She's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, that's what happened. And she's like, I didn't know that. I'm like, oh, okay. So I translated it, and I on the fly in the email, and then they fixed it. I guess someone who had the original files fixed it and put it up on the website. So it, I think it was like chapter 17 or something like that. I think that's fixed up. So yeah, so there's like other difficulties that are not more production style, the more like production difficulties than there is like actual like context in the story difficulties, because I'm not really like a lot of the stuff that this mangaka has done is very straightforward as it goes for like giving you information. So it's a lot easier than Undead Unluck in that sense. I feel like.
I can imagine. So we also have a question here. Why do publishers have different translations for the same titles for different media? For example, anime or manga.
Well, those are two different things most of the times. So like just because, and this goes for pretty much anything that has like a spin-off, right? Say you have a manga for something, that doesn't mean that you have the license for the anime. Right. Unless you make a deal that you do. Like Viz, they publish Naruto the manga and Naruto the anime. So they can do both of those things. But like there are some companies that don't have the two things, right? Like Viz Media had Full Metal Alchemist for the manga, but the anime was Funimation. So like those two have completely different terms. And I mean, honestly, like it all comes down to whether or not you want to take the extra step to actually be consistent. Like that's the like the translator, the freelancer's job. Usually not the company's. I mean, unless the company has a mandate that you must use these terms, usually, or you have to use it, you have to translate stuff this way. Usually we don't hear anything about it, and we just have to go off the cuff. Like for the light novel that I'm translating, the White Cat manga, the White Cat visual I'm getting all mixed up. The White Cat light novel, right? That has a manga that's coming out, and it's being translated by Christina Rose, who is also a fantastic translator, and she's worked on Super Robot Wars and stuff like that. You know, that's published by J Novel Club, but the manga is published by Yen Press, I think. So she had absolutely no obligation to even ask me what my input was, right? But she did, because she gave a shit, and she wanted to make sure that we were at least a little consistent with what we were doing. So she, hit me up, and then I, shared my glossary with her, and we swapped, and that's how we made.
Right. Yeah, that's really good, but also not all the time is that possible, because sometimes,
Right.
If you ask like, hey, can I ask the translator of this company for this term sheet, it might be like a whole thing.
Yeah,
Whereas
exactly.
like Christina, so you could just like be like, hey, so is this okay? And I guess it's it's not illegal, it's not wrong, but only if you like ask, it could become a whole thing between the companies and
right.
So yeah, I think we have a few questions left for you. I kind of like the one that you mentioned today. So you tend to promote your works in both English and Japanese based off your Twitter. So is there any specific reason that you do that?
I do that just because I feel like no one really does that for their work. Like, I don't think, like, either the translator is not comfortable enough to share their work in Japanese at a level to where like people want to read what they're talking about and interact with the fans, or they just don't feel like it's necessary. But I feel like if I can show people that, hey, look, I'm translating this thing in Japanese to Japanese people, then it gives them, I guess, more security, and it gives like the people in reading it in English more security that like I guess your work is in good hands with me. Because they actually, if you look on like some of the websites for Undead Unluck, they list me in like some things. Like they list me as like, oh, the official translator, and like they link to my Twitter or something like that. I'm like, yikes. I was like, oh, holy shit. That means that a lot of people are looking at that. But did you want to say something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was I think, okay, what you said, like to your point of like a lot of people don't do that. I think there are some people who definitely want to do that, who are either one under NDA and can never, even be able to do that, even if they want to. And there are other companies that, speaking from personal experience, who do not want you sharing their images unless you pay for them.
Yeah, that's true.
Even if you've done work for them, it doesn't matter. Like, everyone's got their different flow. Everyone's got their different thing. But Viz just so happens to be very cool about, allowing you to do that, and Caleb as well.
Because Caleb, really... I honestly, the only reason I'm doing it for Viz is because I've seen Caleb do similar stuff, and I'm like, all right. I mean, as long as I'm not, I mean, in the end, it's all working towards them in the, like, it all helps them. It helps Viz, it helps Shonen Jump, everyone's happy, like, the fans are happy, they know that their work is in good hands, so, like, I feel like that's fine, right? Like, it should be fine, right? It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission sometimes. So
that's what they say.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I don't, not just for Undead Unluck and Kaiju number 8, but I promote almost everything that I do in dual language, just because, like, I want to make sure that fans, like, hey guys, this is what I've been working on, and then like I post in Japanese underneath it or something like that, just because, there's a lot of Japanese fans that are, kind of interested in that kind of shit, and they're fascinated by the fact that like I'm like a foreigner is talking, I guess. So I don't know.
So post things on Twitter, and you get maybe like feedback from fans or readers, or even just on the chapters themselves, does that like affect how you approach your work at all?
Not really. Like, I mean, a lot of the times the questions are fairly innocuous.
Okay.
Like one guy, I think one fan was just like, "Hey, so for uh the organization, is it called the Union or Union?" And I'm just like, "Bro, come on, I don't know." You could be whatever you want, man. Don't let your dreams be dreams. It can be whatever you want. Like, it's fairly innocuous stuff like that. I've never really gotten like straight out like, "Hey, this is something that I didn't feel was good," or
Mm-hmm.
like, "I didn't feel like this was the best wording,"
Mm-hmm.
or like, "What the hell is this?" And like, I've never really gotten that, because usually my work goes through so many different eyes that anything that I could have done that
Mm-hmm.
was that bad would have gotten chopped off immediately.
Right.
And then
Okay.
even if I can't, because that's another thing, I get a second chance when volumes come out, right? So when the
Mm-hmm.
volumes come out, I get to refine my older work, and I get to erase all those problems, and I get to put out a nice clean version that probably still has fuck ups in it, but at least they're like good fuck ups. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like, yes, all right, cool. A mulligan, right? I get a mulligan for this. But it doesn't happen all the time, right? Some manga don't make it past the initial phases of popularity, so they get dropped from from the magazine very quickly, and you're left with your volume's not going to come out for another year or something like that when they remember it.
Mm.
So I'm very grateful that I get that chance sometimes.
It's very good. So I'm just noticing right now that it's 4:31,
Mm,
which is pretty wild. So we
mm.
burned through our time, but I was wondering before we go or anything like that, I was wondering if you had any more slides, behind the scenes
Yeah,
to show us.
I
Um,
did. Let me see here. So, I wanted to talk about. So, I talked earlier about splitting your lines and stuff like that, but it's very, very important in manga to do this kind of stuff, because you are limited by the amount of bubbles that you have. And if you just put in a translation verbatim, it's going to look like crap, and no one's going to be able to understand what you're talking about, and everyone's unhappy, right? Everyone is like, the translator sucks, get him, right? Or whatever. Then I'll really have some problems. And then, so for this line, this is like from, I think, 32 of Undead Unluck. And Foucault is basically saying, I know, like, this is literal, like, almost as literal as you can get. I know when a person who can care about themselves once before gets saved by someone, in parentheses, I know just how big of a presence that person becomes to that person in that person's life. And it's very clunky, and this is like first pass kind of, maybe, but I rewrote it so that every piece of dialogue had its own little split,
mhm.
uh, correct, connected by ellipses, and it sounds a lot better. It's like, if there's one thing I know, it's how influential someone who comes along and saves your life can be when you have no sense of self worth. It's all of the information that you just heard me ramble on, but it's made to fit across four bubbles without looking awkward. And there's a natural pace to the flow of the bubbles with minimal distraction. And that is the most important thing. You don't want to distract your viewer with clunky like dialogue that like makes them have to reread the line over and over again. You want to make sure that that is perfectly in sync with what they think is going on with the action. So, and yeah, splits and oh, my notes. Oh God. Like I said with my notes are kind of ridiculous. Like, I'll write like a 200-word essay in my scripts, and I'll just like, yeah, there you go, and then like, oh God, everyone, like, like for this one, like all the prices are in yen in the Japanese version, so I put the actual conversion and I put like an approximate conversion because the setting isn't exclusive to Japan. So I said, like, that's what my thought process was. So that's why there's so many notes on this page, because I just decided, hey, it'll probably look nicer and it won't be you won't have all these decimals all over the place. So just nice, clean, solid numbers like they have in Japanese. So that was my kind of localization for that. And I think that works a little bit better in its favor, because now you're, okay, that's $100. Okay, that's $4,000. Maybe you don't need to know that's $46.79 USD approximate. You know, it's better that way. You know, we're not in Japan, so in this story they were going to Brazil at this point, so it's more for the reader's like benefit than it is for the story, right? If it was in the story and they said like, oh, that's like 100 yen, maybe because, you know, oh, Fuko is from Japan, that's all she knows, like the conversion rate of money, maybe that's why I would use yen, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's an Undead Unluck dollars. But Undead Unluck bucks. And also sound effects. I heard some people in the chat wanting to know about sound effects, and my general way of doing sound effects is that I just go off of the visual information I'm given and my know-how from like years of just like of seeing these kind of things and like speaking with Japanese and using these onomatopoeia and like, you know, these are just like common ones, right? They're like, you know, gatang goton, that's like a train, like gatang goton, that's a train going across the tracks, right? So katunk 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 katunk, that's a little bit easier to make, right? And then like this is actually a good example, because this is an example of the sound effects being part of the art, right? So this is lightning striking, so it's like, right? So you have to like, okay, first of all, I tried to think of like how, because this is all going to get redrawn in the volumes, right? So I thought like, okay, maybe if we start with a G, it can kind of like be like, you know, you can draw the G over there on the left or something like that, and you can kind of make it look like a G R R R R R, right? Like you can kind of like do that, and then Sha can be like maybe crackle because the P kind of looks like a C, right? So yeah, I was like thinking of that as well. Like, you know, it's not just about getting the right meaning, it's about what looks right on the page as well when you're like thinking about how this is going to happen, especially if you know that your manga is going to have redraws for the sound effects. It's going to be completely different if you just have like subbed, like it is for the Simulpubs, or like, you know, they use subbed, like they stylized subtitles for the sound effects, like in some other manga. But you know, that's kind of the thing you have to do. And like for that other one on the end, Momin, that comes from Moni Moni, which is not a very common sound effect. You can't really find that online. You just have to kind of know Japanese and know that kind of comes from like not a lot of people even know what that like really comes from, but it's kind of like squishy, like Momi Momi, like it maybe comes from Momi Momi or something like that. But like, you know, a lot of that is just know-how from speaking Japanese and like learning Japanese from like natives and stuff like that. So it really helps to do stuff like that. And like I said, most sound effects are repeated over the course of a manga's lifetime, so you'll always probably see the same sound effects, like don ban, you know, like you'll see those sound effects a lot. Yeah, momi is from massage, but this is moni, so like it's like a derivative of it. So it's not a very common sound effect to find out. You just have to kind of discern that from like, oh, okay, maybe it's from that, and then kind of confirm it. But yeah, like searching online and asking natives and stuff like that, if you have native friends or like native fiancés or whatever, you can really find out, like, with sound effects, it's very easy to get lost with resources because there's no real big book of Japanese onomatopoeia that's concise and cohesive, and not even like all the manga artists like follow the same rules, so you can't really even think about that.
Right.
Sound effects are interesting but annoying. Yeah, they can be kind of annoying. I find them fun. Like, I think the sound effects are my favorite part, actually, sometimes, because it's like a brevity. It's like a window of brevity, so I can just kind of like detox and just kind of like think of fun sounds to put on the page. So, do you ever get a transcript or have to figure out from an image? I'm not too sure what that means.
Maybe.
I see the first part. I just meant that they're sometimes visually hard to read, even if you know all the katakana. Oh, so, yeah, they can be kind of weird too, because in Kaiju number 8, they have, I don't think I have a slide for that, but sometimes his O's, like his katakana O's, look like keys. Like if you're not close enough, you don't look close enough, but sometimes you just, like, if you write it out and you're like, man, that makes no sense, but then if you like look at it like sideways or something, you're like, oh, right. But no, I don't get a transcript, or I just have to figure it out, and usually I'm like 95% right most of the time. So, like, that's basically all you have to do. Like, for that, it's just, you have to get, I don't know, just have to discern what it looks like.
I guess at this point, I'd like to just talk to people in the chat. So, yeah, I know we're a little bit over, but did everybody have a good time? Does everyone like this virtual setup that we've got for, I know there's 60 people left over here. So I was wondering, what do you think? Do you want to see more virtual panels in the future? Do you want, more guests? What kind of stuff? I'm seeing some really supportive things here. Thanks so much. Also, if anyone of you wouldn't mind to just, if you post it on Twitter or even on our Facebook group, Japanese Translators of NYC, and let us know, if you like it, your feedback, get Caleb Cook on. That's a thing that,
we can have the sky's the limit, right? So we just have to, this is the initial test run.
This is our first time, so definitely I'm really appreciating the stuff in the chat, and if anybody feels so inclined to post about it, just so other people know, and just so that we know to keep doing this stuff in the future, that's great. And yeah, and a lot of us don't have to live in New York anymore. A lot of the members of the Japanese Translators of NYC group on Facebook, like, there are people who live in Japan, who live overseas, who, aren't actually in New York. It was just, founded here and everything. So, even though there's chaotic times afoot, I'm really glad that we're all able to meet,
Yeah.
New York is a place in our hearts. Yes. So I hope you all had a really good time. David, Kenisha, do you have any last comments? And also, like, super big round of applause for David for being our guest. Like, thanks so much. Like,
it was no problem.
Your stuff. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, it was no problem, and I, just read Undead, Unluck and Kaiju number 8 if you can. Like, it's free. If you want to read the backlog, it's $2. It's $2. You could buy a Wendy's meal is more than like reading like almost like thousands of manga, and I really just, I love manga and love working on manga, and I want to work on more manga, and I just want to put this know-how to work, and I'm glad that everyone really enjoys the series and really enjoys the series, and I'm glad that everyone was not bored enough to go to see a Fortnite stream in the middle of my speak. So, you know.
It was awesome. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for everything.
Thanks.
But I think we're good for closing out. What do you think, Chad? Are we good?
Yeah, unless you guys have any more questions, I'm willing to answer them. I mean, whatever you might have, any last minute, you can go, last minute fuck you fat fucks. Anybody?
Or a huge old Scottish summer, you mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Or
that.
that.
Or that. Yeah, you could do that as well. I don't know if there was any more questions.
We're recording this whole thing, right?
Yep, we're recording. I'm recording locally, and I'm recording. The Twitch VOD will be up as well.
Oh, great. Do we get to save the chat?
With the VOD, it'll save the chat. With me, no, because I didn't have an overlay for that. I should have thought of that. My bad. Yeah.
I'll keep it all in. I'll absorb it all in my heart and remember every single comment.
Yeah. But yeah, let us know on the Twitter and stuff like that what you want to see. I would love to have more guests. I don't know if I will be on every time, but since this is running from my computer, I'll have to organize it anyway. So I don't know if you guys would want me on as maybe I can be over here, right? I don't have to be over here taking up all the space. I can be on the left-hand side. But
right. So
yeah.
You all know what to do. Thank you all so much. This was amazing. You're amazing.
Thank
David,
you so much.
Amazing. Kenisha, thank you so much. You're also amazing. Oh, and thank you, Nebula.
Yeah. And thank you to all my friends who came. I see a lot of you in the chat. Real Senpai, thank you, Sean. Thank you, Singy. Thank you, Addison. Thank you, Knob. Man, we got to get Knob on here. Knob is funny as hell. Can we get Knob on here? Because I'll show you a link to what interview he did 4 years ago. That guy is real funny.
So, please show me. I'm very much looking forward to it.
Let's get him on.
All right.
All right, guys.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone. I love you. You're amazing. Bye.
Bye.
And you guys should be